A woman raised among maps and cannons abdicates before a world that admits no renunciations, crosses borders as if they were theatre thresholds, and in a cold French gallery summons her favourite. She opens letters that smell of betrayal, calls witnesses, and instead of the whip everyone expects, orders the sword no one forgives. Paris is scandalized, Rome calculates. Europe whispers her name with fear and admiration, while she walks without a crown, yet with an intact will. That woman, small in body and immense in gesture, is Christina of Sweden. She is born under a sky of iron, with the Baltic breathing fog and winters driving knives into window panes. A midwife's error announces her as a boy, and that misunderstanding inaugurates her destiny. From the cradle, her life contradicts what others write. Her father, Gustavus Adolphus, the Lion of the North, thunders across the fields of the Great War that splits Europe like a hard loaf. At Lützen, in the November of 1632, the king falls amid powder and mud. A child inherits a map too large for her shoulders. Tutors with ink on their fingers and generals who smell of leather and snow surround her. They teach her Latin, strategy, philosophy, a garden of words in a season that does not end. The council of the realm tempers her as steel is tempered. Axel Oxenstierna, the minister carved in ice, administers a kingdom that grows by discipline's blow. They show the young sovereign the limits of power and the map of other men's ambitions. She learns to distrust with elegance, to smile as one signs treaties, to speak with the edge of silence. But in secret among libraries another fire is lit, the fire of thought. She reads as one breathes, annotates, compares chronicles with letters, discovers that doubt is also a weapon. And when Europe's princes demand a wedding and heirs, her refusal is an earthquake beneath the snow. The century weighs. The 30 Years' War burns. Cities are reduced to ash, harvests stomped by boots that never sow. Sweden, small in number, becomes giant by the blade. Discipline, powder, a winter logistics. Christina grows hearing the language of gunpowder and the Latin of diplomats. Amid the thunder, she senses a truth no tutor teaches. Power is fire and ash. It warms, it burns, it devours. From generals, she learns economy of gesture. From theologians, the architecture of dogma. From poets, the possibility of air more fit to breathe. To her court comes a Frenchman who changes the color of dawn. René Descartes. He brings method. She brings insomnia. Lessons begin before the sun, when the window panes weep. Philosophy enters the palace through a door opened by frost. The sage shivers under the discipline of a cold that pardons no one. The foreign body yields. The silence after his death falls like a bell. Within that bell, Christina hears a sentence without words. Here, what she loves may not survive. Not an omen, a verdict. The decision she takes fits no manual. In 1654, in open daylight, she places the scepter in the hands of her cousin, Charles Gustavus, and with that gesture burns the catechism of obedient queens. She does not flee, she declares. She changes faith, language, home. From severe Lutheranism to theatrical Catholicism, from Stockholm to Innsbruck, and from there to Rome, from frozen lakes to Baroque fountains. Europe calls her traitor, capricious, mad. She turns insult into passport. Her name ceases to be title and becomes cipher of freedom. Rome opens balconies as before a storm. Academies encircle her. Artists seek her as one seeks a lamp that also listens. There appears a man of ash and discipline, Decio Azzolino, a watchmaker's gaze, patience and steel. And from the north, like an ember that refuses water, returns the name of Ebba Spare, a beauty scripted in letters where the ink seems to have a pulse. The life of the ex-queen learns to speak two alphabets, reason of state and trembling of skin. She learns the music of commanding without a throne, influencing without a scepter, deciding without a chair, Stillness does not fit her like a dress. She dreams of a Mediterranean crown, Naples, a gold coin in a gambler's hand. She stitches promises, tests alliances, crosses corridors where perfume hides gunpowder's smell. Into that orbit steps Gian Rinaldo Monaldeschi, elastic gait, velvet smile. Master of the horse, messenger, expert in the ancient gymnastics of flattery without motion. She gathers him beneath her shadow. He learns to breathe at her rhythm. Letters become tunnels of power, ciphers, aliases, invisible maps. And then, noise. Secrets return, handled by other hands. Whispers precede her. Names appear too soon. Suspicion is not a lightning bolt. It is a fine rain that soaks the bone. Christina gathers scattered threads and finds the knot. Monaldeschi, her favorite, plays both sides. He sells shadows for coins, traffics confidences. It is the old music of court, but she will not dance. The enemy takes shape, not only him, but the whole system that turns loyalty into merchandise and honor into mask. The queen without a kingdom feels the stone in the shoe of her biography. She escaped a cage, but cages travel. Autumn of 1657, Fontainebleau, stone that remembers. The wandering queen arrives with her travelling world. Musicians, soldiers, philosophers, secretaries. She summons Monaldeschi with a calm that announces storm. Upon a wooden table she spreads letters, seals, signatures. Paper creaks like a dry branch. The names of the Neapolitan plot surface like dead fish. There are witnesses, there is a confessor, there are walls that will keep memory. The accused dissolves into half-truths. He implores like a man convinced theatre will rescue him. But today there will be no theatre. The court expects a whip, public humiliation, a pardon that preserves the game. She, who has crossed continents obeying only her idea of freedom, pronounces sentence without tremor. Where courtiers demand spectacle and etiquette calls for ceremony, she chooses steel. The first cut is not art, it is human clumsiness. Blood runs like fresh ink. The marble learns a new color. Monaldeschi tries to pray. Words trip over iron. On the face of the woman who ordered the execution, there is neither joy nor hesitation. There is a duty so personal it frightens. The scandal travels faster than horses. Paris, offended that another sovereignty was exercised on its soil. Rome, preparing rebuke with gloves of silk. Pamphlets multiplying a useful lie. They invent the whip, mask the blade, reduce the decision to a carnival of punishments. For truth weighs more than fable. The price comes as slanting rain. The Neapolitan crown fades into mirage. Some Roman doors half close. French smiles sheath their edge. She returns to Rome, not as exile, but as one who chooses her stage. She opens her house to musicians and thinkers. Corelli's violins light the night. Lucretius returns in living Latin. Academies are born like torches. Prejudices burn discreetly. Anzolino, beside her, is an ember that will not die. What rumor cannot name, politics, affection, fidelity, they speak in a language gossip does not translate. She walks Rome as one reads a palimpsest. Beneath the marble she hears the breathing of the dead. At every corner, a chapter. She attends processions, makes silent visits, leaves coins in anonymous hands. Sometimes, passing a church, she inclines her head not to display piety, but from intimate gratitude. The eternal city gave her refuge, stage, and contradiction. 3 names for a homeland. Years sculpt her without turning her to statue. The energy that once set salons ablaze now warms conversations by lamplight. On her desk, the inkwell is her last sword. With it she blesses talent, withdraws favor, disciplines flatterers, protects the insolent. Contradiction does not break her, it completes her. She can be harsh with the servile and generous with the contrarian. That compass, capricious to other eyes, always points to a magnetic north. Dignity. But the ghost of Fontainebleau persists. The word betrayal, spoken in any salon, releases an echo of footsteps in a French gallery. In her memory there is no repentance, only a keen sense of cost. For her, clemency is not amnesia, it is memory with a border. The border is this: betrayal shall not cross again. Official history tries to domesticate what cannot be tamed. It sands edges, paints moral lessons. In that work, the episode is draped with comfortable ornaments. The whip that never existed appears. An execution is powdered with the rouge of spectacle. The public applauds the fable that absolves it. But at the center remains an object that will not be covered: the sword. That immovable detail is the red line. There was no whip, there was no theater, there was an idea of justice, debatable yet integral. Beneath her roof meet theologians and libertines, musicians with invisible fingers, poets hungry for patronage, travelers with secret maps. She listens with sharpened patience. Azzolino constant reads her silences. They need no proclamations. Their understanding lives in a zone rumor cannot enter. At the same time, survivals from the north return in the form of impossible offers. The crown of Poland glitters for an instant like a mirage. She looks, measures, does not hurry. She has learned that haste is a chain of gold. When the body remembers ancient winters, she orders papers, drawers, accounts. She prepares her house as one equips a ship for the final passage. She desires simplicity. She receives pomp. She dies in Rome in April of 1689. Torches, cardinals, curiosity attend her. Her body descends to St. Peter's, a territory for few. She did not ask it, but it fits exactly. Her entire life was a conversation with the exceptional. What remains? A living question. Which weighs more, crown or conscience? Which saves more, the easy pardon or the costly truth? What is loyalty when fidelity is sold at market price? She does not offer packaged answers. She offers an example that obliges thought. And thinking in her creed is not a luxury, but a duty. Her legend multiplies in engravings, letters, memoirs, gossip, poems. For some, marble in skirts. For others, a wandering library. For a few, a storm that smiles. Her greatness is not unanimity, but density. She abdicated without becoming a shadow, turned faith into journey, journey into culture, culture into governance, governance into gesture, gesture into symbol. And when symbol tried to devour her, etiquette, caricature, myth, she moved again. To move is her truest verb. If the world were a tapestry, her thread would cut across in diagonal. She does not follow the border, does not obey the pattern, she crosses. And in passing she leaves a new weave. That weave invites those who come after to cut with judgment and sew with patience. Freedom, her great love, is not an accident. It is a craft. She learned it among canons, libraries and salons. She practiced it with the stubbornness of one who refuses to be decoration. Let us return to the gallery where names change their meaning. The oblique autumn air, witnesses with cold hands, the confessor with eyes like a well. A seal broken on a letter, the ironic smell of ink, a list of names written with a serpent's pulse. The favorite breaks like glass, words become splinters. The woman looks as one looks at a horizon, without blinking. The gesture is not born of whim, it springs from an inner pedagogy. In the world of treachery, lukewarmness is complicity. That limit defines her. It defines her relation to her century and to us. Salons will render perfumed verdicts, excess, pride, immorality. Others will say justice, coherence, frontier. Between the two lies the rope stretched by her biography. Obedience broken in time, abdication as intimate war, conversion as voyage of conscience, execution as red line. That rope does not invite imitation. It invites the measuring of distance between what one believes and what one does when it costs. Baroque Europe needed figures like hers, mirrors that do not beautify. Amid gilded archangels and velvet curtains, someone to say with iron that protocol without character is well-polished furniture, that freedom without ethics is a fire, that ethics without will is a sermon. without audience. Along that triad, Christina walked as a funambulist. At times she wobbled, at times she cut, but always she advanced. Her house in Rome was an invisible kingdom. Under her patronage, schools sounded, artists emerged, letters crossed that today are smoke bridges. Ideas were contested as if they were ancient coins. The eternal city, which has seen everything, loved her for what she was, a luminous anomaly. And she answered with what she knew how to do, kindle embers where others left ash. In the north, her absence became politics. In the south, her presence culture. She was a bridge between moral temperatures. To the Swedish court, she left the portrait of obedience broken with elegance. To Rome, the example of a fruitful foreignness. Between snow and marble, between psalms and madrigals, she embroidered her own geography. It's hard to think of another figure of her time who accepted to pay so dearly for the ticket of autonomy. Every story seeks an ending. Hers is an echo. Imagine once more the corridor, footsteps sounding without haste, hands holding candles, smoke drawing signs, held breath, a certainty moving forward. A small woman who nonetheless fills the room. Somewhere a clock marks the hour with the fierce indifference of objects. She has already decided, and when such a will decides, the world trembles just enough to remember that human destiny does not always fit the rulebook. From Stockholm to Rome, her life is a line crossing winters, seas, hymns and dogmas. In one hand, always, a book. In the other, a key. The key opens a door that cannot be seen, the door of autonomy. To that threshold she came with ice in her blood and fire in her head. She crossed it without escort. And there, in that territory without official maps, she founded her invisible kingdom, populated by music, ideas, and chosen loyalties, a kingdom that cannot be inherited but can be caught like a flame. It was not an ending. It was a threshold. It was not whim. It was a frontier. It was not a whip. It was a sword. And above all, it was a question that still resounds like a bell on a windless morning. What are you willing to lose in order not to lose yourself? Share this story and subscribe to the channel. Here we remain, deciphering crowns and silences.